So, um, today is our, whoops, that's not 5-4, it's 4-5. Um, it is our last day of this fourth week of the CPA seminars, and we've been working on these on the Clockpunch contract, which I should just have up here, and we've had a couple of interfaces going. Of course, we have um, our interface that is a web page. Oh, I need to log into MetaMask. You notice it doesn't, well, anyway. Okay, so let me load, where we can put in the name of an agent and it will tell us all the clock ins and clocks outs and also the total time. And then we also have been working on this Python interface right here, which allows someone to actually send those clock in and clock out commands. And the way I've been testing this is just by, first I gotta HTML, seminar source code, week 4. And then we have two folders in here, one for the Python and one for the web page. I'm gonna get to the Python one and Python 3 clock. Well, what I've been doing is I've just been running Python 3 and importing Clockpunch. And actually I've just been doing from Clockpunch import whatever. That will run the script and define these functions for me, clock in and clock out. It also has a private key hard-coded in. So I've already run this a couple times and actually done these clock ins and clocks outs. So if I take this address, and again, this is just hard coded in here for now, and put it in here and get this, then we can see some of the data that I've been calling from this Python interface. And so I guess I want to pause here just briefly and talk about a couple of things. One thing that I think is important to note is that one of the strengths of smart contracts is that you have this central repository of truth, and in this case, it's this code here, and we can look at Etherscan. I guess ropsten.etherscan, and we can take the address of the contract, which I can get here, which of course we've generated right when we deployed and compiled and deployed the contract at the most recent time. But here's our contract, here's all the transactions, and this is the source of truth on our whole system here. And we have two interfaces for it. A lot of times I'll tell people that smart contract development, we're really dealing with a new stack. The old stack, or maybe I should say the traditional stack, is a LAMP server where you have Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, and you have to worry about paying for that server. You have to build a web front end. You have to worry about your database, and then you have some sort of processing, which is the PHP. And maybe that stack has changed a little bit with those particulars, but now we have this new stack in front of us that's available, and that stack is smart contract on the bottom and then interfaces on the top. And these interfaces can be coming from almost anywhere. I've been focusing a lot on the Web3.js to build these web pages out. That's pretty popular with dApp development because your users just have to go to a website. They still have to get MetaMask, so they still have to download something extra, but it still seems a little like a lot less friction. So people tend to go for these Web3.js stuff, but you can build it in Web3.py as I've shown here, and there's other languages too. And anyway, so my point is just that. That is a powerful feature of smart contracts. Not only are they sort of, you could say, multiplayer by default, and they have all these nice security benefits, like everything is signed, and all the data on there is permanent and unhackable, etc. But also you can access the same contract from several different methods. I mean, you could even go to etherscan.io. Well, I'm already here. So I'm already on this contract page here. There is an API for Etherscan, and I could actually just grab the events and some of the data from this contract from Etherscan. I need to do a little bit more processing to decode that, but that's yet a third way you can access this. So smart contracts are very interface agnostic, and I guess that's my point there, and it's an important thing to know and take advantage of. So yeah, and then so here's the outline that we're going to be going through. Um, we're going to be modifying both interfaces. For the Python interface, I'm going to change it to where these two, whoops, let me go back to the Python script right here. I have a clock in and a clock out function. I'm going to change the structure of this a little bit so we can actually just call, right from the command line, we can call the script to do one of these with one line, and the script will do it and exit. And then I'm also going to make it actually wait until it's mined and then tell us that it's been mined. Those two are actually going to be really simple to change. And then for the JavaScript interface, on this chart over here, you can see that the time is just a Unix timestamp, and the time added, this is the number of seconds. And I want to format those both better. For this last column, we'll do the same thing we did up here, which uses a certain function called humanized duration. And then this, I don't know what the quotes are all about, but we'll get this to be displayed in a date, which should be pretty simple with JavaScript. And then after that, I want to at least, I mean, unless it turns out to be quite complicated, but it should be simple to do some before and after filters. So up here, where you put in their address, you can also say, you know, give me all the clock ins or clock outs before and after certain dates, so you can filter that down a little bit. So you can look at a specific week or a specific day. And then finally, I want to make sure that this table should be displaying not only the registered ins and outs, but also every action that goes on. So I just want to make sure that that works, and I'll probably do that by calling this Callpunch with string and give it something other than in or out, just to verify it does show up here, because that would be nice if as a worker you could say in, out, and then you could say break for 15, or you could say maybe make a note about what you're working on. And so that way when you're, you know, whoever is interested in the work you've been doing, they can look on here and they can see that extra metadata and all those notes that you put in. So that's those are the goals. That's what we're going to be doing today. I got started a little late here. I feel like it would be good to talk a little bit about, you know, what gives me direction when I'm working on this. I'm trying to make this I try to imagine a user out there who would use this. Again, the nice thing about contracts is that they're sort of by default multiplayer. They're out there. No one needs to pay the server costs. This information will exist forever, etc. And so when we have this Clockpunch functionality, I would imagine that there's a worker and there's a guy who wants to verify his worker or monitor his work, and they are in a situation where a smart contract would be nice. So maybe they're in different countries. Neither of them wants to pay a server bill. There are services online that allow you to do this time tracking, and some of them are free, but of course the free ones they all get their value somehow. So I don't know how that is, but this system, of course, is owned by no one. You can use it without an email address. You can do it totally anonymously. So when I try to think about, when I'm building this outline over here, how do I decide what I'm doing here? I just try to imagine myself as the user and think, how would this become more useful? Maybe that's obvious, but in any case, that's what I'm thinking of. That's how I got to this bit about the before and after filters. Because if I'm coming here and I've seen that, okay, the time worked is 37 minutes and 4 seconds, I might like to then next time ignore all those clock ins and clocks out, because maybe I've already paid the worker for that, or I don't need to see it again. So, okay, that's enough talking. Let's get into it. The first thing is this Python modification. This should be pretty simple. So let's get right into that. I am going to keep everything here just fine, and I'm going to take this out. We don't need that anymore. And now I'm going to do this. If name equals main. Now this is a weird Python thing. This is checking to see if this script is being called as a program or if it's being sort of imported. If it's being imported, this nothing in here will happen. If it's being called as its own program, then that's when this triggers. And so by putting some code in here, I can make sure this code doesn't run if I'm just trying to import it and use the functions directly. Okay, and then I'm also going to say if, oh, well, at the very beginning I need to import sys because I'm going to be getting some arguments which you can access via the sys module in Python. So if sys.argv, argv is a list of arguments that were passed to the program. And the first one is actually the name of the Python script, so we won't be using that. We'll be using sys.argv 1. And actually, what I want to say if there is one. So I'm just going to say if sys.argv, and then we want length of that is greater than or equal to 2. So if there's more than just the name of this program, that means there's something that we can use. And I'm going to interpret that as the string that we want to call the punch with. So really simple, actually. Call punch with string sys.argv1. Okay. Now let's capture the transaction ID that it'll return. We're just going to call it TXID, like so. And I guess for right now, just to test it, I'm just going to print, and again we need to do w3.2 hex, whoops, w3.2 hex, because this transaction ID is going to be a byte string. In Web3.py, for some reason, that's how it returns it. So if we want to be able to take it and put it into Etherscan and all those sorts of things, we need to get it into the hex representation, TXID. And so let's just see if that works right away. So, and we'll also be able to test now if our interface can see actions that aren't in or out. So I'm going to go to my thing here. So I want to go Python 3, clockpunch.py, and now I'm going to put in my argument. That's going to be yo. That's my, it's going to try to do a clock punch with that string. It should. We'll see. Okay, so yeah, it seemed to print out transaction ID here. So I'm just going to copy that, go over to Etherscan, Ropsten, Etherscan that is, and paste it in. Okay, so, well, the command line bit works anyway. That's cool. That's not too surprising, though. And it has been included. Should be reflected in a short while. That's one word. Kind of funny. Should be reflected in a short while. Let's try refreshing again. Okay, there it is. We can see there's an event log. Oh, here we go. We can. This is a nice feature. I don't think you can do it when it's mining, but sometimes you can view input as, you can change it, and then you can sort of sometimes pick out, there's my yo. So that's sometimes useful for debugging. But anyway, so now let's go to my web interface, click this button again, and hopefully we'll see another action here. Okay, well, we have a bug, first of all, is that it's copied the whole thing, and it's not showing our non-in, non-out stuff there. So let's, so we got two bugs to work out then. First, let's see about why that is being repeated. Okay, we're adding things to this punch action output vars, and I guess we never clear it before before this loop. So that's really all we need to do then, okay? So window.app.punch action output vars equals that. I'm a little worried that that'll mess up views tracking stuff. They can be a little bit weird with arrays and stuff, but let's just grab this address, copy it, and now refresh the page, plug it in there, and click this. So we should see these, and now hopefully it doesn't add to it. Okay, so we've fixed that bug. However, it's still not showing anything except for the ins and outs. So let's look at this loop here. So we have this loop. It's going through all the punch actions for agent. Let's just look at this variable in the console just to see if what we want is even in there at all, because maybe it's somehow getting filtered out before that. Ooh, look at all those logs. Okay, we have 7 and we're only seeing 5. So yeah, indeed it seems like they're all there. And I bet if we get this last one, we look at the args, we should see yo. Okay, so there's the one. So it's in that first list that we are iterating through, but it's never getting added to this one. Now I have this if, else, and in each one it ends by pushing something to the window. And so that's odd. Yeah, I'm not really sure why it's not picking up our extra. Be nice if I don't really have any debug tools for JavaScript in my repertoire. What's going on here? I don't know. I mean, this loop, this last else should be catching everything that doesn't fall into these two, and it should be pushing. So I guess I can just console.log. Just to see, and I'm gonna find some other console.log and erase them just so we're not getting too confused here. We don't need to log that anymore. We don't need to log that anymore. Okay. Save and I'm gonna grab this address, refresh. Whoa, uncaught syntax error on 107. Did I? Oh, I accidentally typed in a weird character there. Okay, let's try again. Paste that, get punch events. So it's never logging anything, which indicates that this else is never being triggered. What's going on here? I mean, if this else is never being triggered, then I guess it's always going into these two. Oh, okay. I think what's happening is that this outer if, or this one is being triggered, and then this secondary if is not being triggered because it's not in and it's not out, but it is in this outer if. Then this else never gets triggered. So that's what's happening. I guess what I want to do then is just take this condition and add it as an and to this if statement. If there's no in action found and there's no out action found, and if the action we're looking at is in, then do all this. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Okay. So take that like that, and then we can take out this guy, this boy, and this boy, and then dedent, unindent, I don't know what you call what I just did there, but same with this. If there is an action found and there's not yet an out action found and the thing is out, then do all that stuff under there. And then else do that. Okay, that should produce a better output. Let's give it a shot. Copy that, refresh the page, throw her in, get that. There we go. So now we have everything. We got the two ins, got an out and got a yo. Okay, so that's good. Yeah, I don't know if I want to worry about it now, but from a UX, user design perspective, it would be nice to indicate, okay, there's two ins here, so this number, is that coming from that in to that out or that in to that out? We could look at the code and figure out what that is, but it'd be nice if there's also an indication here. Maybe we could highlight the ins and outs that are actually counted, and then but anyway, that would be a usability improvement to make this clear. But okay, well that's good. We can already cross some stuff off our goals here. So we've done this, get that crossed off, and we've also done this, which was the hotkey, Shift Alt D. Okay. Okay, let's go to number 2 on the Python interface now. We got a little sidetracked into the JavaScript, but that's fine. Now we just want to wait until the transaction is mined in the Python script and then output that. That's actually really simple. I have an example from an old program right here. I will throw this into the links on the post. Links. There's that. That'll be in there. And that's linking to the specific line that I'm using. This agent's whole thing is kind of interesting. It's a project I sort of gave up, but it was sort of like a command line utility to add arbitrary contracts and send commands and stuff, but it never really got finished. But lots of useful techniques in here. Feel free to ask me about it if anyone wants. I'm happy to give you a personal tour guide through this thing and show you the more impressive bits. But in any case, this line right here is what we're going to be using, wait for transaction, and that's not something I wrote, that's just part of the Web3 library. So let's go back to our code right here, and nope, not the JavaScript, the Python. And here, Clockpunch with string, I don't want to change that, but here, instead of printing out the transaction ID and ending, well, we can still print it out. In fact, let's print it out. Waiting to mine, and then we'll do like that. So we'll still get the transaction ID, but instead of ending, we're going to wait for transaction receipt and give it the TIX ID. And we're not giving it the 2x transaction ID, we're just giving it a transaction ID because that's what Web3 Pi expects, which is a byte string. But anyway, let's now, oh, and then we'll just say, so this function here, wait for transaction receipt, won't actually complete. It'll block until it gets a transaction receipt. When you get a transaction receipt, that means a transaction has been mined, and that's also a paradigm in the Web3 JavaScript or Web3 JS. Once you have a transaction receipt, that means it's been mined, and you can look at you can use it to look at the events. Although I think the events are not in a decoded format, but you can sort of inspect certain things about the mined transaction. But and I believe it'll return it, so we could say receipt equals that. But well, actually, why not for fun? We'll just do that, and then we'll just print it. See what it looks like. Okay, so that should be fine. Let's go ahead and test that. This is moving along rather quickly, which is nice. let's do this again. Well, let's go look at what kind of history we got here. Out in, I haven't clocked out yet. Let's clock out again now. From my last clock in, out. Okay, waiting to mine. And we have the transaction. I mean, we have the transaction ID here. So I'm gonna take this over here and also take this, copy, and put it into Ropsten so we can watch both of these. Okay, well that just completed. Mined, and then we have you see the mine just right up here. Then we have this huge fucking attribute dict as the contract address none. That would have some value. By the way, I bet if I refresh this page, it'll be mined. Yeah, there we go. Just needed to refresh. This contract address none. That just means we haven't created a contract. That would be said if we created a contract on that call. We got block. We got a whole bunch of stuff. Cumulative gas use, all sorts of interesting stuff. We don't need to dive into that. You guys can, I suppose you can pause the video and look at it if you really want. But that's pretty cool. I'm gonna take out that print statement. Let's take this prompt back over here. Take out, we don't need to print all that. That is way too much information. So yeah, I'm just gonna run this again with a clean, just so we can see how this looks. Okay, I'm gonna clock back in. I mean, it's not gonna be too exciting. It's just gonna say mined. We can check back at that later just to see how that looks. But we can go back to our interface here now. The out will be there. Oh, I got to put in the address. Did I? Oh, that's not the address. That's a transaction ID. I need to go grab it. Get the address. Oh, that's how it looks, by the way. So we just ran a command. Then we waiting to mined. Okay, that's very easy. Way faster than Web3. I mean, way faster than a website interface that would need you to confirm. And also, typically, dApps don't actually tell you when the transaction is completed. Because I don't even know why that is. I mean, even in ToastyCoin, it doesn't really tell you. You can see the changes reflected on the page often, but it doesn't explicitly tell you when a transaction has been mined. In any case, quite easy to do it with Python here. So let's take this address and plug her back in here. I mean, again, nothing too surprising is going to be here. This time we got a lot of time here. Oh, 1 day and 30 minutes. Yeah, so I think I clocked in yesterday and I didn't clock out until just today. If we compare the seconds here, we have, yeah, lots of seconds between. So yeah, 2.7 here and 2.6 up there. So that's, what is that? It's like 100,000 seconds. Sure, that must be a day. Okay, well, that's cool. Let's go and cross off another thing off of our list here. We did this, so the whole Python thing is now done. So the last bits to do now are to make time and date outputs in table human readable. Yeah, let's do that next. So what I'm talking about there, of course, is the time added and the time over here. I'm going to do the time added first because we've already done that once here. Just going to be a copy paste of a function call. So let's go look at this. I'm going to close all the Python code as well. Because we should be done with that today. Okay. What am I doing? I already forgot. Oh yeah, changing that time added. So right now what we're doing is we're storing the time added in punch action output vars here. So I could do a couple of things. I could either change, instead of putting 0 and putting this number here, I could actually put a string and make it a formatted string. And the function we're going to use again is, let's find it. Humanize this one right here. Humanize duration. So I could put it right in here, but this is our output vars, and I don't think it makes sense to put the human readable stuff in there. Let's just keep the data in there. And let's go to the HTML instead and look at how we're actually rendering this. So here's what we're doing here. We have a a table defined here with here as our headers, and then here we have a tr with a v4. So this element will be repeated for every element in punch action output vars, and then we're calling the item that we're iterating on, I suppose, the punch action output dict. And we're getting the time, action, and seconds added. So we can put any valid JavaScript expression in here. You can't. There are some limitations. I don't think you can put like a bunch of code, but I believe that you can put an expression in, whatever that it means. I don't know the specific delineations between an expression and you know what would be too complex to be called an expression, but you can do an expression. So what I'm going to do here is just wrap that humanized duration. I think that's what it was called. Is that right? Humanized duration. Yep. And then it takes the number of milliseconds, and then we also pass in this largest 2, and I think that just keeps it from saying like, you know, 1 month, 1 day, 1 hour, that would be like 4 or 5. It would be a very long line. So this largest 2 just keeps it from putting a bunch of units out. It just gives you the 2 most relevant units. I suppose the 2 biggest units. So yeah, let's do that. Humanized duration. So there's our seconds added. We're going to multiply that by 1,000 to get the milliseconds. And then close that. Or no, well, we will close it, but we need to also then just do a largest 2, like that. That should work fine now. Let's give it a shot. Okay. Once again, grab the address, refresh, plug it in, and hit go. Uh-oh, lots of errors. Humanized, oh, I didn't spell it right. I put a J there, like a doofus. Humanized duration. Let's try that again. Oh, humanized duration is still not defined, but referenced during render. Okay. We include it here. Did I spell it wrong? Humanized duration. That seems right. Is that how I spelled it over here? Humanized duration? It is. So Vue can use it here, but it can't seem to use it in the index.html. Well, that might be a limitation of what you can actually put in these curly braces. So I'm just going to assume that's what the problem is. And rather than digging into that, I'm going to sort of sidestep the problem here. And we are going to just define a new variable to display here. And then we'll go into the Vue app instance and, whoops. And define that as a watch. Whoops, we don't need that either in here yet. Punch action output dict. So we have these output vars. I guess what we can do is humanized time added. And while we're here, humanized time stamp, I'm going to call that. And then we'll go into our thing here, and we will just add that. Although then it's like, do we even need these older variables, time and seconds added? Well, I guess we do. We need the seconds added for the, well, we tallied all up here. Okay, I don't even know if we need these old variables here anymore. I'm not going to delete them. I'm going to keep them in there. So humanized timestamp. Well, I'll get to that in a second. First, I'm going to do the one we're working on right now, which is humanized time added. And then we're going to say humanize duration and seconds added times 1,000, and again, the largest, 2. Okay. And then I'll just, oh, well, not seconds added. That's not a variable we have. That's what I'm assigning here. So this is really just 0, which I guess just means this whole thing is 0, like that. And this whole thing we can copy down to here, because this is also adding 0, and take away these extra parentheses and stuff. Okay, and then can also copy it here, but we'll have to change it. And here we can actually put in a value, seconds to add times 1,000. Oops. Okay. And let's go back here, and I'm just going to change this back to time because we don't have that written in yet, and save. The other one's saved. Okay, let's refresh and see how it looks. Okay, that's cool. So we've got that looking much better. Time added, we got 32 minutes here, 4 minutes, and then 23 hours. So that's what adds up to our 1 day. That's looking pretty good. Another usability thing that would be nice to add, this is another bit of homework anyone could do, is that this last one, even though we've clocked in and we haven't clocked out, I mean, in theory, then this number should be counting up, right? I mean, from a usability perspective, if I'm the manager or a coworker and I want to see how much hours somebody's working, well, they've clocked in and they haven't clocked out. So this number really should be going up, because as soon as they clock out, they will pull in all that time and log the time. So it'd be cool if this was actually counting up live. You could do that with a view. I mean, I don't want to get into it, but just to sort of think about how you would do that is in this loop, you could add an if statement here, saying, okay, well, if we found an in action but without a matching out action, and we're about to end the function, then maybe you could set a flag to true somewhere, and then you would have somewhere in the logic here you could maybe, well, I don't know how you'd work it through to the actual interface, but you could have maybe a watch in the view or a computed variable that would actually update live with some sort of interval that would keep doing that math. Okay, what time is it now? What time was that last clock in at? And then just displaying that difference through the humanized duration function, of course. Anyway, so that would be maybe a fun piece of homework if anyone wants to get some practice in. And again, for any of these, whenever I mention homework, if you do any work on any of these primitives, that comes with direct guidance from me if you run into any problems. So that's the deal. Okay, so now I just want to change this time into this Unix timestamp output into a a date and time. I don't know where these quotes are coming from. That's kind of weirding me out. I guess I want to take a quick look and see if I can figure that out first. We're setting the time to inaction time in time. We're setting inaction time to 0 here, but then we're setting it from punch actions for agent. Okay. So it looks like somehow this time argument in this is coming from an event. Remember, this list is almost directly just a, where did that go? This list is almost directly a copy of the return from the event filter. Event filter.get all punch event equals res, and then we loop through it and we just basically filter out some of the stuff. So all punch events, if we can just do a find, we're going through all that and we're putting some of them into punch actions for agent. So anyway, what that means is that when we say args time, we're really grabbing it right from what I'm saying is the structure is going to be the return value of that event filter. And apparently it's returning a string, although even if it's a string, I don't know why the quotes are actually coming through there. So I'm just going to console.log type of inaction time and then inaction time itself. Save that and do this just to see what we get there, and maybe I'll figure out why those quotes are there. I don't want to spend too much time puzzling over. Got a lot of logs. What line are we at? So we're on 87. So let's look at the logs from 87. That's these two right in the middle here. Okay, I think that these are big numbers. That's why they're a little weird. Yeah. Oh. Okay, the value is in the array. And it's just... type of, it's an object. That's the type. It's just telling me it's an object. Yeah, I believe it's a big number. The type big number, JS big number. Yeah, so just to show you guys, JS, let's just do big number. Oops. Well, I can't find an explanation of the big number, but Web3 runs on these big numbers because the numbers that come from the EVM are incredibly large. So they need their own data structure to make sure that nothing goes weird with that. Python does a similar thing, and that's just because when you look at, let's see, ether units right here. When you look at 1 ether right here, the number of way it is, that's how much, that's the number that's actually represented on the blockchain. And of course, if you have more than 1 ether, of course, that's going to go up. And that's uint. I believe that the size is 100. Uint, let's see. Uint. What is the? Let's see. Solidity types. Bit of a tangent, and we don't have much time left, but I just want to sort of talk about why the big numbers are needed. Yeah, so uint 256, that's the default, that's the largest size that you could have. So that's 256 bits, which I suppose that's whatever that is divided by 8 bytes. So was that like 16 or 32 bytes or something? I think it's 32. But anyway, that's why when you pull those numbers out into Python or into JavaScript, you can't just leave them as integers. You need to actually handle them as with a data type that is used to handling large integers. So all that to say that when we look at here and we have these weird objects when we are logging our inaction time, that is because that's a special type, and it's a big number. So, okay, that's probably where the quotes are coming from, and I can probably get rid of them if I just like turn it into an int. Instead, I am going to look up a way to get, let's see, stamp to date. Now, since this number that we're pulling, the inaction time, that is a Unix timestamp, since we know that's what it's coming, or that's what it actually is, we know that it's not going to be so big that we're going to get any weird overflow errors. So I could actually just say int, like that. I believe that will work just fine. And we can do the same here, int, like this. And do it here too, don't want to forget that one. And if I'm right about everything I just said, that should take away the quotes, but not mess anything else up. Int is not defined. Oh, JavaScript to int. Oops, to int. Parse int. You know, I probably should go, let's see, JS big number to int. I keep forgetting that T. Come on. Big number.js. Can I, oh my goodness. This is an ugly page. Come on now. Is there two number? That's what we want. Okay. So, okay. To number. And right here as well. We can close that. We can close that as well. Let's leave that open. Okay, and let's try again. There we go. Okay, so those look to be regular numbers now, which is good because now we can feed that into whatever JavaScript has for their to human readable date. Well, I don't, that looks like really manual. I was hoping there'd be something a little easier. Jesus, there's no... I gotta get a library, what the hell? Convert seconds to time string, that will only do the time. I'd like to get the date too. That's ridiculous. Wait, does this work? Moment.js. I've used that before. I guess I'll just use that. Yeah, that's what I'm going to use. Yes, okay. Rather than download it, I'm just going to do the CDN moment. I don't know if this is entirely secure to use these CDNs all the time. I don't know. Got a bunch of Cloudflare. Oh, look at all that. Oh, for locales. Fuck it, I guess I'll just download it. Just download it. Yes, that's the one I want. Whoa. Can I save this? Yes. Save it as... Okay. Wait, actually... Getting close to the end of the seminar here. Yes, and then we want to throw this into libs, and we're going to call it, not s, moment.min.js. Okay, that looks good. Now let's go into our HTML and actually include that. Okay, and then let's use it, which again, how do I do that? Let's go look. Where'd that page go? Okay, timestamp equals, okay, that's what we want first. Action time, now, do we want to store it as a moment.js timestamp? I think so. That would be good, I think. Well, let's keep this as an integer because that's our loop logic is functioning on that. And here we can well, let's add another one. Let's add another variable to this. And this will be humanized timestamp. And then what we're going to do with this is we're going to say, we're not going to be setting variables, but we'll just do like a chain of function calls here. So moment.unix, and then here we'll put in the actual timestamp, which is in action time, and then let's take out this weird semicolon. And then what's the next line that they use? Dot format. So then we're going to go dot format like that, and then here we need to actually put in I'm just going to do hours, minutes, seconds for now. We'll add in the days after I make sure it's just working at that level first. What did they do? They did HHMMSS, HHMMSS. Okay, I'm just going to save that. And I'm just going to leave, well, I guess I need to define it for the other ones, otherwise we'll get an error. So I guess I'll just copy this over from the comma to the bracket. Copy that, put it here, and then put it here, and then of course we need to change not in action time but out action time, and then here not even out action time, but I guess let's make a new variable. Var action time equals this whole thing, and then here action time. Okay, let's save it, see if that has made our numbers over here a little bit better looking. No, it didn't do anything. Oh, because I'm still outputting the old variable. I'm still outputting time. Right. So I need to go back here, go to our loop here, and humanized time stamp. Save, and refresh. Put the guy back in, click. Okay, well we have a time. Oh, this is weird. It's, I just did a weird formatting. It's the time, but I'm putting slashes in it. That's kind of bizarre. I don't know why they. That's what they said in the date. That's kind of funny. He meant he put slashes. He should have put colons. Well, in any case, it seems to be working. If we just ignore the fact that there's slashes and they should be colons. Yeah, this seems right because I'm always doing things around 17 o'clock or 18 o'clock UTC, that's what my PC's on. So, okay, well that seems to work. Just a weird formatting. So rather than just fixing that, I'm just going to say, well, we do want to put colons into the slashes, but I'm also going to add some stuff to these. And in fact, I probably should just make a variable of to track that string, that format, which ideally would be in some config file, but I'm just going to slap it in as a local here for the function. So I'm going to say format string, timestamp format string equals, and then so what we already have is hours, minutes, and seconds. But let's go ahead and add into this the day stuff. So let's go to the moment.js. Yeah, this is what we want, something like this. I'd like something concise, like, I kind of prefer, Oh, that's weird. I don't know what multiple locale. I don't want that. Um, okay, I want the year, and then the month, and the day, separated by periods. So the year is easy. And then the month is, I want the date, the month number. Where is the month number? I guess I should look at the documentation. I guess it's just two M's, maybe. Let's try that. And then day. Let's just see if that works. And then of course we'll need to paste this everywhere we want to use it. So I'm going to paste that here, paste that here, and paste that here. Let's see how that looks. Grab the address, refresh, put it in, get punch events. Hey, that looks pretty good. Well, it looks quite good, actually. So, yeah, so we have the date and the time of every one of these timestamps. That's very cool. Now remember, this time value is being pulled from the event as an event argument. It's not actually being calculated from the block number, which you might be able to argue it's a security concern, because if we're here in the Solidity, this is the smart contract code, we're just passing this in as a variable. So you could sort of say, well, what if the smart contract was passing something else? They could sort of fool the interface. That's true technically, but when you write a smart contract, one of the nice things about it is that you know it's never going to be hacked and never going to be changed. We can see right in the code, it's always going to pass now for that time variable. And so even though we're passing it as an argument to the event rather than looking at the block number of the event and getting the time from that, which we could do in theory, this is still just as secure as long as you know that you're dealing with this contract. And if you know, as we're doing, we're deploying it ourselves and hard coding the contract address in, so we don't have to worry about that, and it's just as secure anyway. Yeah, so let's close that, and close that, and we can cross another thing off here. Make time and date outputs human readable. Cool, and we're just about out of time now. So the only thing we didn't get to is add in a before and after filters so users can look at a given week or day. That would be a great bit of homework. In fact, I'll just put that down here. Homework suggestions. Again, please, if you want to do any of this, let me know and we can talk more, and I'm happy to provide guidance. You know, it's a win for me because I can see work get done on these things, and it's a win for any students because then they can get some experience actually messing with this stuff. So there's a homework suggestion. There were a few more throughout the stream. I don't remember what they were now, but maybe I'll think about this and add through it. But yeah, that's it for today. Before I close out, I just want to take stock and think about if there's anything else that could be done in the future. So it's Friday seminar, so we'll be moving on to the next project next week, sorry. But this is pretty complete. I mean, there's definitely some improvements. You know, as I said, if you added a before and after filters, then, you know, if we can imagine that I'm looking at this as a manager or someone who wants to track the work. And really, let me back up a little bit. The reason that my motivation for building this was that as I do these seminars, if a student wants to do some homework, they can track the hours that they're doing. And then if they have done if they've done any amount of work on their own time, sort of individually, they can reach out for help. But the idea is that they're doing sort of the learning and the development on their own time. If they do that, they can log it on these, and then I could look at that and actually match their hours up to 5 hours per week. That's sort of my pledge. My running pledge here is that if any student wants to do any of this work, come talk to me, and then you can start logging these hours, and I will match those hours with my own private development time. So that would effectively mean that you could work on this, any of these projects we're working on, of course, and they're all open source and unlicensed. So it's not like you're just working on my project or whatever. But you can rest assured that if you do want to work on this at all, I'll sort of be able to double down and well, double your development time. So that was my use case for this, is that I could I could always come to this page and refresh it. And this is a JavaScript web page, so I could actually save this on my desktop, and I wouldn't even need to go to, well, that's what I'm doing actually right now, I suppose. It's not on a GitHub Pages. And actually, okay, I know we're running over now, but I want to set this up on GitHub Pages because this is pretty much complete, and that is part of deploying a dApp, is actually getting this interface out and available for people. And I've said this before, but GitHub Pages is really nice for hosting JavaScript interfaces, which a lot of dApp interfaces are just strictly JavaScript, without having to pay a server cost. So if we go now to seminar source code, let's look at, I don't know if I'll be able to set up GitHub Pages for a specific subfolder. I might be able to. Let me just take a look here. GitHub Pages, source. Yes, select a source below to enable GitHub Pages. So it looks like I'm going to do a master branch or master branch docs folder. I believe that there might be a way to do multiple pages per repository, but maybe not. Maybe a specific repository needs a specific page. So I guess in that case, so I'm just going to say that it's 5 after the official seminar is over. I'm going to keep running this video, and I'm just going to make a new repository, put this code on it of this front end here, and then configure it with GitHub Pages, and then actually make it public. So you'll have a you'll have an IO address you can go to and actually see this interface and use it yourself. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's see. I suppose the first thing I need to do is make a new repo. Yes, new. This will be let's see, this interface is not to make clock punches, just to view them. Although later we could add in the ability to make clock punches. In fact, Sayron said that he was maybe going to look into doing that. That would be a pretty easy thing to do. So I'm just going to call this, I guess just Clockpunch interface, Clockpunch console. I think that's what I'll call it. Clockpunch console. Public, initialize with a readme, create. Okay. Now, what I want to do is a couple of things. I want to clone this. That's the first thing I want to do. So, git clone that. Now that created a folder here. CD clock console, and now this has the git here. You can say git status, everything up to date. So now that I have this on my machine, I'm going to I want to copy all the stuff from our. Let's see, how do you copy? I always forget on Linux. Linux copy directory all. There's always, it's not just a copy, I don't think. Wait, is that really that simple? Copy files and directories. I don't think this is what I want. Yeah, it's just -r. Okay, that's not so complicated. So we want to copy HTML seminar source code week 4. What do we have in here? We want to copy the web page. Yeah. So that's going to copy everything in the folder. And I guess I want to add in the -r up here. And destination is, well, right where we are. Okay, now we have, oh, it copied the folder like that. Let's see if we can get that out of the actual folder. .r, Clockpunch web page, everything to right here. Okay, that's what we want. Now, how do you remove a directory and all contents? RMR files, okay. RMR Clockpunch web page. Okay, that looks good. Now, let's do git status. Lots of stuff untracked. I'm just going, well, I think we can just add everything. The only thing I sometimes worry about, like if I'm uploading a Python script to the repository, I wouldn't want to add any compiled, you know, some compiled Python programs that are generated when I run it. But this is just HTML, JavaScript, CSS. So there should be nothing compiled. So I'm just going to go git add everything. And now git status will say it's all added. Git commit. And what's the message here? What are we doing here? Just initial commit, I suppose. Whoops. Okay. Git. Push origin master. And that's going to ask for my login information. Okay, so now after that completes, we should be able to go here, refresh, got all the files there. I could change the README if I want. I'm not going to do that right now. And now I can go into settings and go to GitHub pages. Watch how easy this is. This is actually kind of crazy how easy this is. So you save that, and then you go, let's see, so you want to do your, I believe it's your repository name.github.io, or it might be your, let's see. Here we go. So your site is ready to be published at, yeah, cryptoprimitive.github.io. So it's your username, or in this case, my organization name, .github.io / and then the name of your repo. There we go. So that is a live version of the Clockpunch console. And if you put in the address, which you can find in the source code, I guess I'll put it in the post here. I'll put this link, whoops. I'll put this link in the post, and I'll also, in that same line, put in, you'll see, Python script agent address. This is the address that we've been logging everything with, and I'll just give this to you guys so you can see those clock punches for yourself. And I will grab that from clockpunch.py and user address right there and put it here. So then when you take that and you plug it into your, whoops, that's the localhost one. This is the public one. Slap it in here, do that, and there you go, it loads up. So now this interface is available to everybody. Cool. Yeah, I think that's it. Pretty happy with that. One more week down and one more thing mostly finished. Yeah, so next week, what are we working on next week? Next week we're working on the forwarding contract logic. We're going to be building from it a what I'm starting to call a composite identity primitive, where the idea is that you have this contract that represents one or more people, and this contract can not only have money and decide where to send it, but also be able to call specific functions on other contracts, which is a little bit more complex. I don't know if anyone has done that yet, but it should be simple. Well, I don't know if it should be simple, but it should be possible. We will have to use some Solidity, well, it's not Solidity, but EVM bytecode. If we look at the, where is our forwarder? Well, somewhere in one of these weeks, we have a forwarder. Maybe it might be week. Yeah, here's our forwarder.sol. So here we're using assembly. We'll have to use some more assembly. This assembly as it is, it just takes our function call and forwards it immediately. We'll need to change that to actually take the function call, store it, and then allow people to vote on it or do whatever it is that we want these composite identity to do. Because if we just forward every call immediately, there's no way to get the approval of the group or the composite identity. And if we're going to build a composite identity like a multisig or a voting thing or anything that any group of people that you want to be able to interact with other contracts as if they're a user, we'll need a way to not just forward a command, but actually store the command and let people vote on it or approve it or whatever the process is. So that's what we'll be doing next week. It's going to get hairy because the interface is also going to be a bit weird. We'll have to have an interface that can let the user not only direct where the forwarding contract is going to go, but also give the user the interface of the target dApp. So like if you wanted to use a composite identity contract or a multisig contract to use Toastycoin and burnable payments, we'll have to sort of have like a frame inside of our interface that loads Toastycoin, lets the people fill out the thing, and then when they click submit or whatever, it actually brings that request back to our dApp, so then we can shove it through our forwarder or our multisig or our composite identity and handle it that way. So that should be interesting, and we might run into a lot of obstacles there, but we'll give it a shot. It's definitely a primitive that needs to be made, because if we can get some of these composite identities working, we can actually start chaining some of these primitives together, and that's really exciting. So yeah, and then we'll have one more week after that. That'll be week 6. So week 5 is coming up, then we'll have week 6. On week 6, we're going to be using Go, and we're going to be focusing a lot on trying to put all the primitives together. And that will finish out our first semester here, or I should say our first session of CPA. And then at the end of all that, we'll have a hackathon, and more info on that as we near those dates. But yeah, so thanks for joining in, guys. Sorry I went a little over the seminar time today, but I hope it was worth it, and I'll see you guys next time.